Hi everybody. Ours is a little bit of a different story in that we run a film festival in a village that has no cinema, which is a bit daft, but it seems to have worked. We started 10 years ago. We just celebrated our 10th birthday 2 weeks ago, so we're a little bit shell-shocked still from the number of people who arrived into Schull. But the festival basically is a competition for short films. So international films are submitted, films up to 18 minutes, into competition, and they're judged over the winter, and then 200 of those films are screened around the village of Schull. Pauline is going to give you a little bit of information about the origins of the festival, seeing as it was Pauline's idea.
Many years ago in Schull, like every other village that we're talking about here, we could see the decline, and it was a very destructive decline. It wasn't gradual, it was sudden. It was just people that had money were now leaving buildings, go derelict, not renting them when other people wanted to rent them. So came up with an idea, we need a festival, we need to do something here to re-energise Schull. So we came up with the idea, which is absolutely crazy, let's have a film festival. I suppose the reason why I told about it is because in our area, some very creative people have moved to, like the likes of Lord Putman and Maurice Caesar, who's an award-winning composer, and Chris O'Dell, who's cameraman for the BBC. So they've moved to our area. So the talent was there. So it was just a matter of being cohesive, bringing them all together, which is what we did. But how we started, we had no money, absolutely no money. So I went to a friend of mine that was now almost aged 40, and I babysat for him when he was a week old, and I said, you owe me. Okay, he says, and they gave me $5,000. And then I went to another friend who I said, you owe me, I got 3. So it worked like that. So we started our first festival, I think, with 18,000. Our budget for this year's festival, how much?
140.
140. But all the money we get for the festival, other than what you call outlay expenses, goes back to the village. So much so that we came up with a novel idea of doing vouchers that can only be used in the village. So we make our own money, and it goes back to all the shops. So we give about $7 or $8,000 out in vouchers.
Pauline, you're going rogue. That's later on.
Oh, sorry. but anyway, but just to let you know, that's how we started. And a friend of ours knew this fella here, Duke Sheridan, knew Jacko, knew Jerry, and they came, and Krista, they came our first year. That's all we had, our first year. So that's how we started.
Yeah, very few guests and very few short films really submitted, so it was very manageable. One thing that happened was we called a meeting, and about 25 people turned up to join the committee. And over the months and weeks, nothing could be decided because there were so many people and so many opinions. We couldn't choose a colour, we couldn't choose a logo, we couldn't choose a venue, it was just impossible. So a steering committee was put together, and it's pretty much the same steering committee now, 10 years later, with a few changes. 1 or 2 are a little bit in the background and then they come forward again because, like most situations, you get a bit of volunteer fatigue. This is our 10 years. So each year we choose an image from one of the films submitted to competition. So on the left you'll see this is, our logo was a square logo, and it's progressed over the years to the 10th year. That picture is from a short film called Little Shit. And it's, excuse me, it's a lovely film, and it's a UK film, and the boy tried to come to the festival. And he's actually a lovely boy in it. It's just that he's kind of living in a very rough area, and that's what he's called. So 10 years, we are kind of can't believe it ourselves. We started with about 80 films.
Yes.
And we had 400, almost 400 films this year. Also, we never had feature films before, and we started introducing the odd feature film, and we now showed 16 feature films this year, some premieres and some very new films. So that was kind of a new learning curve for us too. 10th birthday, this is our birthday cake.
Hilary, tell them what happened to it, honestly.
It's a ton weight, it's about 4 stone in weight, and we carried it around from party to party, thinking that we would cut it. And eventually it ended up in the back of my car, and I forgot it was there and took a corner and it rolled across the car. So it ended up, I had icing and stars and logos all around the back seat of my car until eventually.
Gave it to the kids in the school.
So this is the committee as it stands at the moment. This is the steering committee. John Kelleher, who was the former film classifier, and he's been on the committee since the beginning. Helen, who's in the front row on the right, she's been in since the beginning. Frankie was a new find for us in the last couple of years, and she's become operations manager, and she is phenomenal. When you find somebody good like that, you know, it's just, you really realise how you can appreciate somebody who's got drive. She put an operations team together, mostly of women our age, who could run the country. They were unbelievable. And we had a lot of students from UCC and from the local community college that we could never find. So we had about 60 or 70 of them, and then we had a group of women who, and male, Pauline had a good few men drivers, and they saved our bacon because they were absolutely phenomenal. Do you want to talk about the hotel?
The first year we started, as I said, we didn't have any cinema. So we approached the hotel and they gave us a room quite like this. And we got cabs, which is a technical crew, to come down from Cork and we get up for us. And they did. And that was our first cinema. And then we had little sort of small ones around the place. We'd only got 3 events really, because it was the first year we didn't know what we were doing. The year after, we were such an omen to the hotel that they closed. I swear to God, our first year into the festival and they closed. So we, actually, you know what, it was the best thing that happened to us, because we had to be innovative. So then we decided, we have to do it again, we cannot do it again. So a friend of ours knew somebody, the commandant of the army in Cork, so they lent us their tents. So we converted the whole car park into a cinema with about 4 huge tents. The dark green ones, which were brilliant for cinema. We had little restaurants converted, we had a bookshop converted, we had art galleries converted, we converted a bus, we converted a Horsebox. So then we actually extended the cinema to become our screen. And then the first year also we took on a boat trip to a little island where somebody gave us their bedroom, and we converted a bedroom into an underwater sea cinema. That was sold out before any other ticket. That was a real dream.
We developed a system called distributed cinema, where all of the films that were submitted for competition were put up. We bought a server and we put all of the films on the server, and it meant when you came into town you could log on to the Wi-Fi and you could watch any of the films that were submitted each year for the past 10 years, 24 hours a day, 365 days of the year. But because it's in town and you can't watch them outside, we don't have a copyright issue. So it's all the time to try and bring people into the village. So that has worked very well for us. So you see people around the town, they're watching shorts on their phones or on their laptop. It worked very well for us. With the Long Island cinema, we called it Shorts for Long Island. So literally you bought your ticket, you hopped on the ferry 10 minutes out, and you went to this lovely house, and Long Island is stunning. And we've been very lucky that the weather's been extraordinarily good for 10 years, touch wood. The odd very windy year, but you know, other than that, it worked very well. But Digital Forge set it up for us, and every year they come and they make sure that all of the venues have really good Wi-Fi. There's free Wi-Fi in town, and we would actually sometimes film an event, and we'd stream it to another event if that venue was oversubscribed. We tried to stream it online and had some technical difficulties. Somebody'd move a chair and you'd be running to that venue to say, go back into your spot, you know, you'd be off camera. Or we would try and stream events in a pub, and then you'd have people making noise, and you know, it just wasn't great. We also tried silent cinema, where you'd come in, you'd put your headphones on, and you'd be able to pay attention to what was going on the screen, and it didn't matter that somebody was dropping cups or whatever. But the venues were close by each other, and they were crossing over each other. So few little difficulties, but we've kind of clicked on things that have worked, and we've stuck with those and tried to develop new things each year. These were our guests for this year, and we had over 100 guests. Last year we said we'll only go to 50. It being our 10th year, we kept getting calls saying, you know, can I come? Can I come? Can I come? Can I come back? So some of the guests, Pauline's friend, Jim Sheridan, who's absolutely fantastic. He's been coming since the beginning. David Putnam, Pat Short and Lenny Abrahamson. Steve Coogan is one of our patrons. Also this year we have had Deirdre O'Kane. We started doing a film quiz just as something different to do on a Saturday night, and it's become one of the highlights. Deirdre O'Kane came this year and she was super, really good. And she came and said, please, can I come back? I'll do anything. Just please, can I come back? We've had Nick Knowles, who does the DIY SOS. He was brilliant. Gerard Stenbridge. So we've had some great comedians who've come, and Stephen Frears. Mm-hmm. What film did he do, Pauline?
Oh, he came with Philomena, if you remember. Philomena with Steve Coogan and herself, Judy Dench. He brought that to us. He's been over twice. Mike Lee, now he's a character. He's a terrible devil. But he's a great character and he wants to come back. He's filming at the moment, so we might have him next year. That's Kristen, daughter of Jim. Lovely man, John Madden, Shakespeare in love. And we can bring that calibre to a small little village. And what fascinates all the big other festivals is, how do you do it? And when I asked them why, they come back and they said, because we could do quotes for you, but we'd be here forever. It's the most personal, intimate, beautiful festival we've ever been at, when we've been that many. But they said, you don't lock us away in a hotel room, you leave us out there with the crowd. I love when young students come up to us and say, how did you get that light in that one? And they ask and they tell them. That's what it's all about.
Now you're on the vouchers.
There's the vouchers, I told you that. Sorry, Hilary.
So we give vouchers to all of the guests. Nobody gets paid. And it amounts to, I think this year it was just over 6,000 that the guests spent in the village. So they could go in and they could buy jewellery or they could go to the pub. But it just meant that all the businesses get something, and it also encourages your businesses to become a business friend, particularly when they see something coming back. Dennis Ryan?
Oh, Dennis and Mary Ryan, friends of ours. They have a house in Skull. They give us a fleet of 4 Citroen cars every year. Now, it's up to me to find the drivers with clean licence. You know how difficult it is in this country for that. And I have to guarantee him they haven't been in jail for something or other. But no, we get them, and we had a great crew of drivers this year, because usually nobody wants to do it Monday morning, because the party Sunday night goes on until about 4 or 5. So nobody wants to drive. But this year, we managed to pull it off. So we've a load of thanks to him.
We had Corona as a sponsor in the early years, and it was fantastic because it was good funding for us, but it restricted us a little bit in that you can't engage in any of the children's activities if you've got Corona logo everywhere. But we got a huge amount of material from them, and we had seamstresses and ourselves colouring in and making signs and sewing and stitching, and in fact we're still using the rolls of material that we got from them 9 years ago. Corona's was taken over then, I think it was to the UK, yes. So we lost the Corona sponsorship, but it actually freed us up quite a lot. Originally we were the Corona Fastnet Short Film Festival, which was a bit of a mouthful, so it's now Fastnet Film Festival, and it's just much easier for people, FFF. So this is a seahorse that was made from the Corona materials and branding up and down the street. We had a brilliant woman on the committee, and she's still an advisor to us. And she made all of these by hand, and they're all bits of film and circle stitched, and they made noise and they fluttered in the wind. They were fantastic. That was back in the old days. These are the current ones, which are beautifully made, probably much more corporate, but we're not really very corporate. We make lots of mistakes, and that's all part of the charm, I think. Well, we like to think so anyway.
That's where traffic jams go to. You missed that.
So through Corona, we won the Business to Arts Award, and while it didn't really financially didn't benefit us, it gave us a lot of publicity, which was really good. These are the local students, TY students, putting up some of the branding. We changed, in the beginning what we did is we put film names on every venue. So Spar, I have some of the pictures, Spar became Spartacus, and the local dentist was the Tooth Fairy, but it meant that people coming into town didn't know where anywhere was. We'd say, go to Hackett's, and that's the Odeon. So it was a little bit confusing in the beginning. Also, we named every premises, so people never knew whether they were part of the screening or not. So that system changed, and now we just have cinema name venues on the screening venues, which we would have about 12 or 14 this year. So these are all the painting and decorating, and it's all very much handmade, a lot of the items. These are the army tents, and the town loved to see the truck coming into town with about 6 or 8 soldiers, 2 trucks, and they'd climb off the truck and they'd put the tents up. It was like party time. It was fantastic. And then they'd come back. We'd send them off for lunch and give them a few crates of beer, and they'd come back 5 days later and they'd dismantle the tents and take them away. Great if the weather's right, but if it's very hot, they get very hot inside, and also if it's very windy. You know, we had to try and find very sheltered spaces for them. This is the horror Horsebox. We had horror shorts being screened inside, so you went inside and you sat on a bale of hay and just with your headphones watched short films. We had the cycle cinema, where you had to power the screen. And as Pauline would always say, that they'd get tired and they'd go, and then you'd have to say, come on, and then they'd pedal faster and it'd go again. It'd do the sound and the screen. So this is it actually in one of the army tents with 3 of the volunteers. We had the ceiling cinema, so it was lie down at the Lido and it was screened up on the ceiling, so they'd just come. You'd find people passed out or fast asleep there on occasion. And this is in the village hall. Do you want to go to the village hall?
You go first.
Well, the village hall was a venue that we got the community to redecorate and turn into one of these old cinema paradiso, because it originally was a cinema. So this was probably our first venue when the hotel closed. And Maria turned it into just a real sort of cafe viewing experience, that you'd come and you'd sit and you could have a glass of wine and watch some shorts or go to a talk. Spar was Spartacus, and the haunted house was the auctioneers, and Lost in Translation, the Atlantic School of English. And these are the current ones. So the bookshop is the Savoy. We would also have readings, book readings. So if a book has been made into a script, into a film, we always try and have a film connection so that it's cohesive, the programme. So the Odeon, O'Regal. And what we do is calves will come and they'll put up a 50, 60-inch screen or a projector and screen in each of the venues. So it's very important that the production values of the films are good, because when the filmmakers come and they watch, if there's something out of sync or the colour isn't right, they come straight away and they say this is not right, because obviously in competition the films have to be shown to the best of their ability. So this is the Long Island Cinema. So it's like literally that is a bedroom turned into an underwater cinema. You can see the nets with the screen up on it. This is our new branding. It's all, the circle is our signature really. So you'll see everything on the programme, the signage, the posters. We developed sales packs this year for the first time to try and get more funding, because as it grows, you need more money, and our box office isn't huge. It's subsidised by Screen Training Ireland, and we make all of the tickets mostly €5, so that the students can afford it and people will go to a lot of things. We tried having weekend passes and we found that we sold very few, because we would have a lot of free screenings. So people were going to the free screenings and not buying the weekend or day passes. So we went back to charging per event, and this year our take was up 50% on last year, which is substantial. So that has yielded quite a bit of sponsorship for us. People were commented and basically said instead of just getting a letter, they were less likely to throw it in the bin, and that they funded us. So we got a fair bit of money through that. We get a fair bit of grant aid from the Arts Council. RTE supporting the arts has been amazing, because while we don't get money, we get a lot of coverage. We had an ad made by friends of ours back in maybe 2010, and each year we just put a new date at the end of it. It's a lovely little cartoon, an animated cartoon, a little man who finds something in the sea, and then he pulls a lever and it shines out of the Fastnet lighthouse. So that has been screened on RTE, also on radio and Lyric FM, and so fabulous for us. The Sunday Times, so we get a lot of coverage there. The Irish Film Board, Fáilte Ireland, and then we have Cork County Council. IMRO came on in the last couple of years because we focused a lot on music and film. Do you want to do Carl Davis, Pauline?
I mentioned a gentleman called Maurice Caesar before. Maurice is on our board, always will be. But he came up with an idea of doing music in film. And how amazing would it be if we could show young people that what they never saw before, an old black and white, and musicians playing to the film. So we did find out how to do that. We found a company in Photoplay in England that actually take old black and whites, 35s, 25s, and redigitalize them to the standard of today. That's very expensive. To get one done, it's about £8,000 more, right? So we decided we'd do it with Carl. So Carl, last year came, and he actually played for 2 hours on the grand piano to the music. It was amazing. This year, he brought 3 musicians with him, Lady Windermere's fan, right? And they did it for 2.5 hours. Again, they wrote the music to it. So we were introducing young people to something that they'd never seen before. They never even thought that that was what a film was like, that you went in, there was a guy playing the piano. So we hope to continue doing that. I did tell him though, he told me that he was already working on another one, and I said, forget it, we can't afford you. But I think he's coming back next year. I think he will.
He's in his 80s, and he's just
he's
a phenomenal man.
He's 84, 85, and he played for 2 hours solid. I mean, that's good. But that's what we're doing as well. With all the innovative ways of film, we're like digital. Neil Lydon came from RTE, and he was doing digital film with their phones. So it's always a new angle and a new aspect that we do.
This is the Holy Board. We try and do a few bits and pieces that will actually encourage sharing on social media, so for Twitter, and give prizes out. So this is one for this year. 3D animated well, and they come and they stand at a certain point and just take photographs. The community is very much involved, so before the festival starts, the fire brigade come out and they hose down the street. Tidy Towns come out and they clean everything up and paint and decorate. And then a local electrical contractor, he puts up the bunting. We've been very fortunate. Recently we were gifted a building at the top of town, which was the old AIB bank building. It was built in the 1930s. The stone came from Cape Clear, and it was from an old church. Originally the stone came from the UK, but it's an absolutely stunning building, and one of our patrons has gifted the building to us. So we're very much at the beginning stages of trying to redevelop that, and we hope to turn it into a film centre with screening and proper auditorium for all performance art and for exhibitions and whatever will help us pay its way. This is just a photograph at the opening ceremony. We also introduced in the last couple of years in one of the local galleries a exhibition where it's film, multimedia, so it's art and it's film and craft, and it's worked very well for us, and it's very helpful as well when we're applying for funding, that you're cross-pollinating with different groups. These are the volunteers sitting out. We had 100 volunteers this year. That's why we couldn't find them. Yeah, they were great. Transition year students made these lovely centerpieces for the award ceremony. This is something we had in the building when we got it. We just moved in literally at the beginning of May, and we gave it a lick of paint, well, our patrons did, and we put a little 3-seater cinema. There was a closet in there. It was like a storeroom, and very tiny, and we just got a projector and screen and put 3 seats that we bought in town from a 1950s theatre that was being demolished. That's the front of the building there as well. We also had the Roadhouse Cinema this year. It's a mobile cinema. It's very expensive, but we didn't have enough venues, so it was very handy. So that was up the road outside the National School. Some issues with the heat and that, but really it's a lovely venue because it's intimate and it's small, and it's very easy to make the place feel full. Whereas if you have a venue like this and you have 20 people, people can seem a little bit lost in it. We also do a post-festival report that we send out to the sponsors with graphs and all the results of the festival, a selection of all our advertising that we've had, and PR. Here is our visitors to the festival from 2009 up to today. You can see we didn't have a huge growth, like 6,292 last year and 6,350. The referendum really messed us up this year because it was right in the middle, and because we were way down on the bottom of Ireland, anybody who was coming from Dublin or anywhere stayed, voted and came on the Friday. So we had people who came on the Wednesday, went and came back. So it definitely affected us a little bit. Total number of participating countries, we've tried to have as many countries as possible who send films in, and we had countries this year such as Moldova, Bosnia-Herzegovina, Latvia, Lithuania. Amazing, beautiful, beautiful films. So we had 33 countries participating this year, from 9 in year 1. Submission entries, we started, as I said, with 84, and this year we had 344. Plus then we had a lot of international programmes that we've also gained a lot of film crews who've come down and made films in Schull. We've had a few feature films and lots of short films, and a feature film is massive to the area. From everything from accommodation to eating to local expertise to operations. I ended up doing operations manager for Float Like a Butterfly, a film that Carmel Winters was making, and I'm traumatised after it. It was a horrendous job. So it's a young person's job, definitely, in that sort of thing, because it's like 14 hours a day, 7 days a week for 6 or 7 weeks. And you still can't sleep when you go to bed. You keep thinking you've forgotten something. I've got the signal, so if anybody has any questions, we'd be delighted to try and answer them.
How important was